You ever look back on your life and realize the moment everything started going wrong was wrapped in something that looked completely innocent? For me, it was a Tuesday. Sunny, cold, and forgettable until it wasn't. Ashley kissed me on the cheek before I left for work. Nothing dramatic. No lipstick smudge on the collar. No perfume that wasn't hers. Just a casual, "Don't forget we've got that thing with Lacey and Ben next weekend," followed by, "I might crash at Lacey's tonight. We've got a lot to catch up on." I nodded, distracted, trying to fish my car keys from the junk bowl. I wish I'd looked her in the eye. Maybe I'd have seen it there, the flicker, the guilt, or worse, the lack of it. By lunch, I was already on to a client call when my phone lit up with a text from my older brother, Derek. "In town for the night. Drinks?" My stomach flipped. Not from excitement. From history. You see, Derek and I, we don't share many things. Except DNA and one very uncomfortable truth. My wife always liked him a little too much. She said it was just sibling-in-law banter. "It's harmless," she used to say, smiling like she didn't just call him hot in front of me. I laughed it off for years. But that Tuesday, the puzzle pieces snapped together like magnets. Ashley was spending the night with Lacey. Derek just happened to be in town. And I just happened to not be an idiot anymore. I didn't confront anyone right away. I didn't storm into rooms or make a scene. No, I did what a man does when he's done being the fool in someone else's circus. I watched. I finished work, ate dinner alone, sat on the couch and stared at my phone until the little green dot lit up next to Derek's name on Find My Friends. He was at his apartment, East Side, that top floor unit with the wide windows and pretentious plants. And about an hour later, so was Ashley. She'd turned off her location. I'm guessing she thought that was smart. She must have forgotten she had synced her iPad to our shared Apple ID. Guess who didn't forget? I saw the lift drop-off alert. Same building. Same floor. I didn't text. Didn't call. I just grabbed my coat, left the lights on at home, and drove. The light in Derek's window was on. I parked across the street. Watched it glow against the blinds. Waited. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just sat there in that quiet car with the heater humming and my hands clenched tight on the wheel. And then the light went out. I got out of the car, walked across the street, rang the doorbell. Derek opened the door, shirtless, sweat on his chest. And behind him, Ashley, wrapped in one of his towels like a punchline wearing perfume. I looked at them. Then I said, "Good night." Paused. And with a smile that didn't reach my eyes, I added, "And goodbye." That was just the opening move. Because if Ashley thought I was going to be just another ex-husband in her collection, if Derek thought I'd slap him on the back and say, "Brothers before," well, anything, they didn't know me at all. This wasn't heartbreak. This was chess. And I had 10 moves to play. The drive home was the longest 15 minutes of my life. Not because of the distance, but because every mile felt like it was dragging the last 7 years behind me, like wedding vows wrapped in barbed wire, pulling at my back with every turn of the wheel. The house was dark when I got there. Still smelled like her vanilla lotion and false promises. I didn't flip the lights on. I didn't need light to see what was gone. Her toothbrush, missing. Her perfume bottle, gone. Her favorite mug, the one that said, "But first, coffee," in ironic cursive, was gone too. Derek had the nerve to keep it casual. Like this wasn't the human version of burning the house down. But you know what wasn't gone? The file. The one I'd started 6 months ago. Call it instinct. Or maybe Hope's cynical cousin suspicion. I'd seen the texts. The way she'd suddenly started sleeping in comfort wear to bed. The excuses layered so perfectly they almost sounded rehearsed. Because they were. So I started collecting. Not because I planned to confront her. No. Because I wanted the truth. Documented. Like an autopsy. I sat at the kitchen counter and opened my laptop. Pulled up the folder labeled Insurance Quotes, a file name boring enough to deter even the nosiest partner. Inside, screenshots, timestamps, receipts. Little things that didn't mean much alone. Together, they told a very different story. The weekend she claimed to be at her mother's. Hotel reservation under Derek's name, 2 guests. The night she came home tipsy from book club. Ride history showed a detour through downtown, right near Derek's building. Even a Spotify playlist she created called Heat of the Moment. Romantic. Real subtle. And the best part? A backup of our home's smart lock locks. You'd be amazed how often people forget that tech keeps secrets better than people do. She'd been in and out of the house 3 times that night. Probably forgot something. Probably assumed I'd never check. She was wrong. Around 2:17 a.m., my phone buzzed. Ashley. I let it ring. Then again. This time, a voicemail. Logan. Please call me. I don't know what to say, but this isn't. I didn't plan this. We didn't plan this. It just happened. Can we please just talk? I saved the voicemail. Named it, It Just Happened.mp3. Almost poetic. At 2:30 a.m., I texted her. You left your cat mug. Derek can keep it. Maybe fill it with the dignity you both lost. Petty? Sure. But measured. Controlled. My revenge wasn't going to be a tantrum. It was going to be a documentary. The next morning, I called in sick. Then I called a lawyer. Her name was Miranda. Cool, calm, and surgical. The kind of woman who didn't flinch when you told her you wanted to ruin your brother and your wife without breaking the law or a sweat. How far are you willing to go? She asked. I looked at the wedding photo still sitting on my desk, the one where Ashley's smile was brighter than the sun. The one I now realized was a souvenir from a scam. I turned it face down. All the way. You ever see someone's soul leave their eyes? I did. It was the following Saturday. Bright day, birds chirping. One of those mornings that had the audacity to look peaceful while your world was still smoking from the crash. Ashley texted me again. Can we talk? Please. Face to face. One last time. Now, normally I'd ignore that kind of message. But I was feeling generous. And curious. I wanted to see how far the human mouth could stretch to spin a betrayal into a love story. We agreed to meet at a neutral location, her suggestion. A cafe halfway between our old life and the fallout zone. You know the type. Reclaimed with tables, baristas with too much facial hair, and jazz playing like betrayal needs a soundtrack. I got there early. I always do. She arrived 7 minutes late, sunglasses too big for her face and an expression that tried to pass for remorse. Logan, she said softly, slipping into the seat across from me like she still had permission. Don't say my name like it's still yours, I replied, stirring my coffee. Just talk. She started with a sigh. A long, Oscar-worthy sigh like she was the one who'd been wronged. It was never supposed to be Derek. I arched a brow. Well, it certainly wasn't supposed to be you and Derek. And yet. She winced. Good. I was lonely, she said. You were always working. And he just listened. Funny. Most people don't need a hotel room to listen. Her hands trembled around her mug. I took a sip of my coffee, calm as a surgeon. He told me he was leaving town soon. It was supposed to end, she said. Ah, there it was. The real betrayal. Derek wasn't staying. He was just passing through. I let the silence stretch until she filled it again. I didn't plan to fall for him. But you planned to lie to me, I said. You looked me in the eye. Do you know what I was doing the night you were with him? I was pricing kitchen cabinets. For the remodel you wanted. Because I still believed in us. She blinked. That one hit. Probably didn't expect me to still care. That's the thing about cheaters. They count on your numbness. They pray you won't care enough to dig. She reached for my hand. I let her. Just for a second. Long enough for her to think this was a soft landing. Then I pulled away. You didn't just cheat, Ash, I said. You used me. You used us. And you did it thinking I'd never be smart enough to figure it out. She looked away. I didn't. By the time she left the cafe, tears streaking her face like that would undo the damage, I had already launched phase 2. Because betrayal, my friend, isn't just about what someone does to you. It's what you do with it. And I had a plan. One that didn't involve screaming. Or smashing windows. Or begging for closure. It involved documents. Silence. And a very public stage. Phase 2 started at 3:04 p.m. I emailed Derek from a burner account. Subject line, night vision. Attachment, a perfectly cropped still of him and Ashley on his balcony. Timestamped. Enhanced. No threats. No words. Just the image. Because nothing rattles a guilty man like knowing someone else was watching. Derek never replied to the email. Not even a fake, "Who is this?" or "You've got the wrong guy." Nothing. Just radio silence. The kind that buzzes louder than noise ever could. That's when I knew he got it. Knew I had him. He wouldn't go to Ashley. That much was obvious. If he did, she'd press him, and she'd find out he had been the one who saved all their messages in a hidden folder. She'd discover he talked about her like a hobby he was getting bored of. No, Derek wouldn't dare open that can. So, I waited. And I watched. Because revenge isn't about speed. It's about precision. 2 days after I sent that photo, Derek showed up at my door. Unannounced. Middle of the afternoon. I opened it just far enough to make him feel unwelcome, but not enough to slam it without a scene. He looked rough, like his ego had gone a few rounds with a meat grinder. Logan, can we talk? I leaned on the doorframe. Oh, now you want to talk? What happened? Ashley stopped bringing snacks to your sleepovers? He winced. Subtle, but satisfying. Look, man, I didn't mean for this to go this far. I nodded slowly. That makes it better. Like tripping and falling into someone's marriage by accident. He shifted, rubbed the back of his neck. The same move he used to do as a kid when he got caught stealing my Halloween candy. I thought you were done. You two weren't happy. That doesn't make her yours. He opened his mouth to argue, but for once in his overconfident life, he had no defense. Why are you here, Derek? I asked. To make it right. I actually laughed. A short, sharp breath. Make it right? Unless you've invented time travel or lobotomy, I don't see how that's possible. He stepped back, guilt painted all over his face. But there was something else behind his eyes. Worry. Not for me. For himself. And that made me lean in. You scared, Derek? He swallowed. Should I be? You tell me, I said, and gently, almost lovingly, closed the door in his face. That night, I went back to the file. Folder name, fireworks. Inside, the good stuff. The stuff I'd been saving for just the right detonation. Messages, voice recordings from our smart home speaker. Derek had a habit of using his smug voice even when no one asked. Screenshots of cash transfers between them. Usually just under the threshold that triggers notifications. Amateurs. But the real gem? A copy of a lease. Derek had helped Ashley sign for a studio apartment 3 towns over, one she'd planned to transition into after sorting things out. Of course, she told me she was staying with Lacey. Naturally. Because lies sound better when they borrow names from friends. I printed the lease, folded it, and mailed it to Ashley's parents. No note. No return address. Just the facts. Just the truth, cold, neat, and sealed with silence. 2 days later, Ashley called. I didn't answer. Then she called again. And again. Left a voicemail. Logan, what the hell did you do? My mom just called me crying. My dad's threatening to cut me off. They know about the lease, about Derek. What are you trying to prove? I hit delete. Because I wasn't trying to prove anything. I was preparing the ground for the finale. The next phase was professional. Clinical, even. A call to HR at Ashley's company. From another burner number. A polite, curious inquiry. Hey, does your firm usually allow mid-level marketing managers to co-sign leases for unrelated clients on company time? Might be worth checking into. They did check. And guess what? Derek's firm was one of their key clients. And yes, he was on their do not do business with list now. Ashley didn't get fired, but she got moved. Down. Way down. And Derek? He got a call from his own boss. Something about discretion and conduct unbecoming. Derek liked to play big dog. Now he was muzzled. But that wasn't revenge. Not really. Revenge came later. Revenge came on a Thursday. That's when I invited them both to dinner. One last supper. Neutral ground. A small Italian place we used to go to as a group. The kind with dim lights, white tablecloths, and a waiter who knew our names. I reserved the private booth in the back. They arrived together. Of course they did. Derek in his best blazer. Ashley in the dress I bought her for our anniversary. I didn't stand when they walked in. I didn't smile. Just motioned for them to sit. You said you had something to tell us? Ashley asked cautiously. I nodded, then reached into the bag beside me and placed a single envelope on the table. Go ahead. Open it. Ashley hesitated, then did. Inside, 2 tickets to Rome. First class. Under my name. And her old maiden name. She blinked. What is this? It's what I was planning, I said. Before all this. Her hand trembled slightly. Logan. I raised a finger, but instead of canceling it, I changed the destination. She flipped the papers. Derek frowned. I don't get it. It's not for Rome anymore, I said, standing. It's for court. You'll both be served by Monday. I'm suing Derek for intentional infliction of emotional distress. Civil suit. Rare, but not unwinnable with enough documentation. He paled. You're joking. I smiled. Try me. Ashley looked at me, her mouth open, a dozen lies ready to leap out, but none brave enough to face daylight. I'm not doing this out of anger, I said. I'm doing it because some people only learn when you hit them where it hurts. Their record. Their wallet. Their pride. I placed the final piece on the table, a flash drive. Everything you need to explain this to your next employer, Derek. Every text, every file, every email. I didn't wait for them to speak. I just left. Calm. Whole. Because the best revenge isn't rage. It's clarity. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. I served mine on fine Italian china with fresh Parmesan and a side of dread. I didn't look back when I walked out of that restaurant. I didn't need to. The silence behind me said enough. No shouts, no apologies, not even footsteps chasing after me. Just the soft clink of glass and the low murmur of a waiter awkwardly refilling a wine glass, probably wondering if he'd just witnessed the pilot episode of some off-brand courtroom drama. I went home, took off my coat, hung it up like it was any other Thursday, and then I slept, better than I had in months. The next morning, the email started. Ashley, we need to talk. Please. This is going too far. Derek. You can't actually sue me. I've looked into it. It's complicated. Complicated? Buddy, betrayal was complicated. This was just paperwork. I didn't respond. I had a schedule. At 9 a.m., my lawyer filed the civil suit. At 10:23 a.m., Derek's boss forwarded him a copy of the complaint because I'd done my homework, and his company had a morality clause buried in their executive contracts. By noon, his name had been quietly removed from their company website. He wasn't fired, yet. But let's just say he went from rising star to maybe we should talk about severance faster than he could Google emotional distress lawsuit. Ashley, meanwhile, was unraveling in real time. I know because she sent me 9 emails that Friday, each one more desperate than the last. I never meant to hurt you. It wasn't serious. We were already falling apart. You're ruining both our lives over one mistake. One mistake. Like cheating was a spilled drink, not a demolition job with my heart on the blueprint. She even threw in a "we could try counseling" Hail Mary, which was adorable, really, like offering a Band-Aid to someone you just pushed off a cliff. And then came Monday. Now, I didn't tell anyone else. Not at first. I didn't want this to be a public spectacle. But fate? Fate has a sense of humor. See, Ashley's cousin, Lila, a marketing director at another firm, saw Derek's name vanish from his company's site and started asking questions. Office gossip travels faster than light, and by the end of the day, the news had slithered its way into group chats, Slack threads, and one hilariously passive-aggressive Reddit post titled, "Wife left me for my brother. I made them regret it without breaking a single law." Spoiler, I didn't write it, but I did enjoy reading it, especially the comments. By Wednesday, Ashley's professional life started unraveling. Apparently, when your boyfriend gets quietly suspended for a breach of client ethics and your own boss starts wondering why your name is popping up in whispered side conversations, it doesn't bode well. HR had a chat with her. She didn't lose her job, but they did reassign her to a less visible role. Lower pay, no client interaction, no travel perks. And here's the kicker, her new manager? And in turn she used to complain about not having enough vision. Delicious. Now, let me be clear. I wasn't trying to destroy her. I wasn't trying to ruin her life. I was trying to return the favor. Just gently. Legally. Precisely. You know what's funny? People always say move on. That revenge is for the weak. That letting go is the mature thing to do. But here's what they don't tell you. Moving on doesn't mean you have to carry someone else's sins on your back. Sometimes, moving on means unpacking the truth, laying it out, making sure it's seen, and then walking away, lighter. I started donating her things to charity, not in anger, just in closure. That dress she wore on our honeymoon? Sent it to a women's shelter. The jewelry Derek gave her for her birthday last year? Pawned it and donated the cash to a nonprofit that supports betrayed spouses. Yes, that's a real thing. I even returned her favorite coffee table book, the one on Paris, to her office, via FedEx, with a sticky note that said, "You left this behind. Like your conscience." Then something unexpected happened. Lacey called me. You remember Lacey, the alibi friend? The one Ashley claimed she was staying with? Turns out, Lacey had no idea she was being used. And she was livid. She apologized genuinely. Said she hadn't seen Ashley in weeks. Said if she had known, she would have told me. She dragged me into her mess, she said on the phone. I should have known something was up when she asked me to lie about last weekend. Last weekend? I asked, raising an eyebrow. Yeah. She said if anyone asked, I was supposed to say she was with me at the spa. But I was out of town with my mom. Interesting. Because last weekend was when she said she needed time to think. Looks like her version of thinking involved another man. I wasn't hurt. Not anymore. I was done. Not angry. Not heartbroken. Just done. And there's a kind of peace in that. Like when the storm finally stops, and the silence feels like a victory. Ashley sent me one last email that Friday night. Subject line, "Are you happy now?" Just that one sentence in the body, too. I didn't reply. I didn't even open it. I just archived it under a new folder I created that evening. Folder name, Peace. And then I booked a flight. Somewhere warm. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere new. Because the chapter was closed. The lesson was written. And I was already halfway through the next story. A funny thing happens when the storm passes. You start to notice the quiet. Not the peaceful kind, either. Not yet. It's the type of quiet that hums in your ears like something's missing. Like the sound of the fridge running when you didn't know it ever stopped. I thought revenge would clear the slate. In a lot of ways, it did. Ashley was out of my life. Derek had vanished into the HR Bermuda Triangle. And the legal case was moving forward like a slow-moving avalanche. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt unfinished. Because here's what nobody warns you about revenge. It doesn't fix the things you actually miss. It started with the little routines. I'd reach for 2 mugs in the morning before remembering it was just me now. I'd instinctively pause the movie halfway through to wait for her comments. Even though the only thing speaking back was the echo. I didn't miss her. Let's be clear. I missed the version of her that I thought existed. The ghost of a life I once believed in. There's a difference. The one you mourn wasn't real. And maybe that's what stings the most. 2 weeks after the dinner, I got a text from Derek. Yes, Derek. You win. I'm out. I'm leaving town. Short. Flat. Cowardly. I didn't respond. Because I didn't need to win. This wasn't a game. It was my life. And unlike him, I never cheated to move forward. I spent the weekend cleaning. Not in a sad, sweeping away the past kind of way. More like preparing the stage for what came next. Every item I donated, every wall I repainted, it wasn't about erasing them. It was about reclaiming space. There's something sacred about changing your own locks. About removing the last photograph without crying. About walking into the kitchen and seeing your mug, your books, your decisions, and no shadows left behind. I even took the couch cushions to get dry cleaned. Not because they needed it. Because I needed it. Fresh start. Clean break. New energy. It was during this highly productive, totally mature healing arc that Haley called. My niece. Derek's daughter. You'd think I'd blocked the whole family, but Haley? She was different. 15 years old, smarter than half the adults I know, and more blunt than a courtroom transcript. Uncle Lo, she said when I answered. You know what my dad did, right? I sat down. I do. She paused. And you're not going to punch him or something? I almost laughed. No, sweetie. That part's done. Good. Because I already told him he was a loser. Now I did laugh. Haley sighed. He's moving to Tampa. Said he needs a fresh start. Told Mom it was for work. But we all know it's because he can't go anywhere without people whispering now. I leaned back. Sounds about right. Silence. Then, softer. Uncle Lo, I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. You didn't deserve any of it. That one hit deeper than I expected. Not because I needed the apology, but because no one else had said it. Not Ashley. Not Derek. Not even mutual friends. Just this teenager, whose last name still made my stomach turn, offering more honesty in 20 seconds than 2 adults managed in 7 years. Thanks, Haley, I said. That means more than you know. Later that night, I sat on the porch. Whiskey. Hoodie. Moonlight. Peace. Finally. Then a voice cut through the quiet. Mind if I sit? I looked up. Lacey. Ashley's old friend. The false alibi. The wild card I hadn't seen since before all this began. She held a bottle of wine and 2 glasses. I figured you wouldn't answer a text, she said. So I made an executive decision. I raised an eyebrow. You always show up with glassware. Only when the person I'm visiting has been publicly betrayed and needs at least one adult conversation that doesn't involve court filings. Fair. I opened the door. We sat on the porch, wine flowing, silence filling the spaces we didn't feel like rushing through. Eventually, she said it. I had no idea. About them. Not really. I didn't interrupt. I mean, I knew Ashley had habits. But I thought it was just harmless flirting. I never thought she'd actually. She trailed off. You know, Derek, I said. She nodded. Derek. Like just saying his name left a bad taste. He always struck me as one of those guys who peaks in high school, she added. and keeps showing up to reunions like he's the guest of honor. I chuckled. That's not far off. She looked at me. You okay? You'd think that's a simple question. But it's not. Because, okay, after betrayal is like trying to walk with a sprained ankle. You're not limping anymore, but the memory of pain never quite leaves. I'm getting there, I said. She smiled. Good. Pause. I read the Reddit post, she said. Oh no. Oh yes. And if you didn't write that, someone owes you royalties. There's even fan art. You're kidding. She pulled out her phone. Here. Look. Sure enough, someone had drawn a comic strip of Logan flipping a manila envelope across a candlelit table like he was in an action movie. I should have been embarrassed. I wasn't. It was weirdly validating. When Lacey left that night, I stood at the door a little longer than I had to. Not because I wanted anything, but because for the first time in a long time, someone looked at me like I wasn't broken. Like I was real. Not a victim. Not a ghost. Just a man. Standing. Still here. Still breathing. Still rebuilding. And that? That was the real revenge. Not the emails. Not the court case. Not the humiliation I served cold and clean like a 5-course karmic meal. It was that I survived. That I could still laugh. Still have wine on a porch with someone who wasn't lying through their teeth. Still sit in the silence. Without it feeling empty, the courthouse was colder than it had any right to be. Everything in there felt washed in beige and judgment. The walls, the seats, even the faces of people who didn't know me, didn't know her, didn't know us, yet were about to decide how much all of this was worth. Ashley sat across the room in a navy blue dress, like she was applying for a job she wasn't qualified for. Derek wasn't there. He'd already reached a quiet settlement, agreeing to pay damages and disappear. The legal term was nuisance resolution. I called it admission without confession. Ashley had chosen to fight it, and I was fine with that. Let her talk. Let her explain how years of deceit were just complicated emotions. Let her describe how falling into my brother's bed was a moment of weakness. Because I had receipts. Literal ones. Emails. Photos. Testimonies. Even a transcript from her so-called girls' night that turned out to be a sleepover for two and not the innocent, popcorn and pillow fight kind. My lawyer asked the questions with the precision of a heart surgeon. Calm. Clear. Deadly. Ashley answered with hesitation, layered in vague words like confused and unsure and overwhelmed. She cried on the stand. But the judge didn't. 3 weeks later, the judgment came in. Ashley was found liable for intentional infliction of emotional distress. The damages weren't massive. This wasn't some tabloid payout, but they were enough to sting. Enough to remind her that choices echo and lies have receipts. She tried to appeal. Her new lawyer gave her false hope. But that fell apart faster than her credibility. The money didn't matter to me. It never did. I donated half of it to a men's counseling program, guys who've been through betrayal, heartbreak, silence. The rest I used to repaint the house. She wanted to destroy something. I built something instead. 6 months after the court date, a letter showed up in my mailbox. Handwritten. No return address. I almost didn't open it. But I did. It was from Ashley. It wasn't an apology, not really. It was a page and a half of half-formed thoughts, scratched out admissions, and questions she knew I wouldn't answer. She ended it with, I don't know how to be without you. You were the best part of me. I see that now. That last line stuck with me, not because it softened anything, but because it proved what I'd always feared. She saw me as furniture. Comfortable. Sturdy. Silent. She thought I'd always be there. She was wrong. I didn't respond. Instead, I tucked the letter into the back of a drawer and wrote one of my own to myself. Just 2 lines. You made it through. That's enough. 1 year after it all went down, I stood in my backyard, same spot where I used to grill with Derek, where Ashley once danced barefoot with wine in her hand, pretending the world couldn't touch us. Funny how memories linger in places even after the people don't. I was hosting a barbecue. Friends. Coworkers. Haley came too, this time with her mom. Lacey was there. We talked, laughed, nothing romantic, just 2 people who'd made it through someone else's mess and lived to tell the tale. At one point, Haley walked up to me with a plate full of food and said, You seem better. I looked around. My house. My people. My life. I am, I said. And I meant it. That night, after everyone left, I took a walk. Just me, the stars, and a jacket that still smelled faintly of smoke from the grill. I stopped by Derek's old place. Empty now. For sale. The porch light still flickered like a warning. I stood there a minute, then said the two words that had taken me a whole year to mean. Goodbye, man. Not goodbye to him, really, but to the version of me who let it all happen. The man who thought loyalty would save him. The one who waited for people to choose him back. He was gone. And in his place? Me. Still standing. Still solid. Still here.